What is your passion?
When I saw that question, I thought like, wow, that's kind of deep. To be honest, I think it boils down to trying to be very true to my values in whatever I do. Because at the end of the day, if whatever I'm doing doesn't align with it, I'm not gonna end up being happy.
So today I have Brenda joining me for our Innovator series. And so for anyone who doesn't know who you are, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Brenda Loya, and I'm the CEO of Tellor. It's a cryptocurrency-based project that provides data to the blockchain.
Awesome. What is your passion?
Um, when I saw that question, I thought like, wow, that's kind of deep. To be honest, I think it boils down to trying to be very true to my values in whatever I do. Um, because at the end of the day, if whatever I'm doing doesn't align with it, I'm not gonna end up being happy, no matter how much money you make.
Yeah, I definitely agree. What would you say those values are?
I like fairness is one of the big ones for me. Fairness sort of alongside equality, and just we all work really hard for what we have, and I think that we should have the freedom to choose to do whatever we want with our lives, so long as we're not making or doing any harm to anybody else. And when I'm talking about the freedom, I'm mostly talking about like just being able to do with specifically your money, whatever it is that you wanted to, without having um, anybody tell you what you can and cannot do. And I can go into that a little bit later, but
Yeah, yeah. I think that's also just like um that's one thing that a lot of people might struggle with is like finding what those values are, because once you do know, then it'll tell you a lot about yourself and what you want to pursue, and to just have something that you can kind of always come back to with whatever you're doing. So I think that's really important.
yeah. And they can change in priority as you grow older. But I think that ultimately, within you, like whenever something doesn't feel right, you kind of know like there's something that has to do with something really deep, very like within your values that's not aligning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is your story?
Jeez. So my story, like where should I begin? Um, so I grew up in Texas, and English is my second language. I also speak Spanish. My background is Mexican. And well, after finishing my undergrad, I ended up in DC, in Pennsylvania for work. But when I was studying, I had this professor that gave me the best advice ever, to be honest, because he was very vocal. And one of the things he always told us was that we should study something that we really enjoyed studying and that we really liked. Because at the end of the day, he was a little cynical too, but at the end of the day, we're going to end up in a job where they're going to teach us how to do it, and we're probably going to hate it. And I was like, what? It was very real. But I actually did follow his advice, and I actually ended up studying economics because I really liked the subject. I liked it. It kind of was a good merge of like math and social science, and I really just enjoyed it. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I like it. So I'm just going to study it. And then, if I end up teaching, well, I end up teaching. Or if I end up, I didn't know honestly what was my plan with it. I just knew I enjoyed it. Um, and then after that, I ended up working as an economist for the US government for about 13 years. I did my master's degree when I was with them, and it was a choice because I actually did enjoy doing that type of work. And then I actually, because I enjoyed it, I figured I'd get my master's degree on it. and I just continue to follow my heart in that regard. Um, Economists, it's very hard for any big economic events to be through. Oh, it's not very hard. It's just lucky to live through some economic events, and through my lifetime, I guess I never really thought that money was going to change much between having credit cards already and having a pretty good system of exchanging goods through fiat or through money. So I never thought that something like crypto was going to come along and actually sort of change and disrupt the way that we look at finance. And so I ended up getting really interested into that industry just because of the possibilities of being able to program what your money can do and really um, obtain a freedom of doing whatever you want with that money without third parties letting you know, for example, um, that you can't um, or that you don't have enough money to enter into a derivative, which is a risk management tool that people use, but it's usually reserved for people that have a lot more resources. And I think that that is kind of unfair because the people that need to manage their risk more are those that have less resources. And not just that, but like just in general, like whatever it is, the blockchain really allows you to create financial tools that are not really cannot really be censored by your immediate government. So some things like even like for example, right now anybody can play the lottery. You can earn $10 a day and you can play the lottery in the US. You can, the state lottery is like I
It's
think it
like you're
costs like $1.
a ticket, and then just like a bunch of people submit, and then they get a lottery ticket, and then only one person gets chosen. They'll get like $1 million or something.
Right.
Oh,
And they select those numbers randomly. So it's random, like at the end of the week or something like that. They select these numbers, and if those numbers are in your ticket, then you win a big pot of money. And you pay taxes on that money. But anybody can play that. The odds of winning that is like one in I don't know how many million. It's like it's very, very small odds. Versus and a lot of the people that play that are people that are um, the resources are not as good just because it's a game of luck, I guess, and with the hope that maybe they'll win it, they might spend some money on it. And versus, and these are the odds of actually winning are like one in millions. Versus like when you are an accredited investor, you can actually and to become an accredited investor, you have to have a certain amount of income and a certain amount of net worth, which puts it into, you have to be in a very good financial position to be able to be an accredited investor. And if you're an accredited investor, then you can actually invest on startups. You can invest on and even startups, even though there is a high failure rate, they have probably a higher probability of of succeeding than you winning the lottery. And that's a different game that you're playing, but the government has determined that only these people with this higher income are able to do this and have better odds at actually making more out of their money than people with lower income playing the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and I know that's an extreme example, but that's one of the things that, for example, the blockchain has allowed us to do is basically now these type of risk mitigation tools are available to anyone. It's still expensive, but they're more accessible.
Yeah.
So um, so then I ended up going from the government into this industry. I have a friend, his name's Nick, that was already in the industry, and I was looking basically just to invest, and then I ended up literally just joining him and leaving my job, my career as an economist, because I honestly do believe that this new technology can really make a difference in how the world generally works. And that's something that I'm just lucky to be able to live in this transitional period, or in this period where this new technology came about. So I'm gonna try and take advantage of it. And that's how I ended up in Tellor. Like we had our first startup, this is our second startup, and we're still here. I think we'll be more successful with our second startup. We had a lot of lessons learned with our first, and we're still pushing through. So that's how I ended up here. That's my story.
Yeah. Well, I think like there's a reoccurring pattern with all of these interviews that I've been doing with people where they kind of were like, and then I just followed this thing that I really enjoyed doing, for you is economics, and I didn't really know where it would take me, but now I'm here and I enjoy what I do and I love what I do, and I'm so glad I decided to do that. But what do you think kind of gave you the reassurance that you were going in the right direction, even though you didn't really have like a detailed plan for how things were going to go, but you were just, I really love doing this, so I'm gonna keep studying it.
Oh, and what's happened with me is that even though I didn't know what I was going to do with it, because I really enjoyed doing it and studying it, I became pretty good at it. So it was easy for me to find a job, a good job. And then because I was good at it, like it was easier to get another better job. And that's one of the reasons it sort of just kept me going. It's like, I'm good at it, I enjoy it. And that combination really helped me propel within even my peers, just because I enjoyed it. Like it wasn't work for me. It was like, I'm doing something that I love, and I get to get paid for it. Um, so, so that sort of kept me going in that direction. Um, what really, how I came about into actually jumping off of like the government and into crypto, to be honest, there wasn't a defining thing that said like you're in the right direction. It was more of a, because starting a business is very difficult, to be honest. It's something that you go through a lot of struggles and you learn a lot through it. So when I'm talking about my values and what I believe, and how I think doing what I'm doing is actually getting me closer to hopefully create a better world, in my view. Um, that alignment of my values and what I'm doing currently is what really kept me going. Like even when we had like rough times, it's like, hey, you know what? It might not be the best of times, but I know I'm doing this for the right reasons. And I'm going to push forward, and I'm going to continue to work really hard to make this happen, because I think it's what's needed. And I don't know that it's really something that told me you're on the right path, but I was like, it's my values. I'm gonna go through it until I just can't. And so far, so good. I mean, we're doing fairly okay. So
I have a question.
yeah.
What makes you like economics? Because it's led to you to all these different things that you enjoy doing, but what led you to economics?
Well, it was specifically a macro class where it was the very basic economics curve of supply and demand, and price, right? And if you can think of like, the actual graph looks like an X,
Yeah.
and then your price reaches equilibrium where the X crosses. So one of the very first class that I took, it was literally talking about taxing tobacco, and how when you tax tobacco, you raise the price of tobacco. And because you raise it, it's something that you shouldn't do. When people smoke, those cigarettes have nicotine. It's actually not good for you, and it's not healthy. And one of the ways that the government was looking into shifting people's behavior on, like, basically, instead of telling them you can't you can't smoke because it's bad for you. They're like, okay, you want to smoke? I'm going to raise the price of that because it's not good for you. And just by doing that, they actually shift people's behavior because it becomes more expensive. And now it's like, they have to choose, do I get tobacco or do I get milk? It's one of those things. And that had, doing that actually did shift behavior in people. Some people still smoke, but in general, for the overall population, that's one of the ways that they shift behavior. And that in itself was really interesting to me because, you can shift behavior in a good way, in a bad way, but in the end of the day, it's something that we don't always realize that it's always going on wherever we're at. So those type of shifts by the government or by, even like the store clerk, when they put things on sale that they really want to get rid of because they haven't really been able to sell it and maybe it's going to expire, they're going to put it on sale so that way they can get rid of it. And if they lower the price, more people buy it. And just by doing that, maybe they save their business, because they were able to get some money at least out of something that was a loss. So those kinds of things was really interesting to me. It's just looking at how these price dynamics actually affect how we all behave. And 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 that's why I liked it. It was just interesting. And I wanted to be more aware of how it was being used to manipulate my own behavior.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One thing is because you were really interested in economics and then you had a pretty good job doing economics. So, like, what made you think, okay, this blockchain technology is something that I think is even more important and that that so much so that you wanted to quit your job to pursue it?
Well, it's brand new technology, but it allows us to do things that we couldn't do in the past, like actually create like a cryptocurrency where you can actually play like you're the Fed share. The Fed share for the US government basically controls the money supply. And that just means like they can control how many US dollars are printed and given out to the public, or they can control interest rates where they can offer the public a bond. If they buy these treasury bonds, they basically lock up the money supply and they tell them like, we'll give you an interest, X interest rate in 6 months. And that way they can contract and expand the money supply. And by doing that, they actually, they can change sort of like the inflation of the money supply. And that is something that is a very high position in the government, and it's something that is reserved for just a few people, to be honest. It's a very important position, but it's something that not everybody gets to do. And it's something that I think that it could be done at a smaller scale for the needs of a specific community. And when I saw that you could actually do something like that with Ethereum and actually be able to just literally program your money as to like what it can and cannot do, and the kind of tools that you could build like for risk management that could be more accessible to more people. I mean, I just thought about, some of those things that I thought were something that was not really available to us in the past that I could use to actually, in an instance, further my own agenda to try and create something that is more equitable and open to people and that provides, a lot more freedom for them to do whatever it is that they want with their money. So it wasn't, to be honest, a very big struggle. I did have a good job, but I think that there's most people, you have once you meet your needs, like in terms of like you have food, you have a roof over your head, and you are in a way financially stable, your happiness level reaches sort of like a max, you know, or a top for that period in time. So at that period in time, I thought I was making a difference with what I was doing with the government, but I thought I could make an even better or bigger impact outside and trying this new technology and hopefully helping it build in a way that it doesn't just recreate our current financial system, but it creates a better one that's more open. And so that's what really drove me, was like, I think I can make a better difference over here. And even though at that point in time it wasn't more money, it was definitely not more money. It was just, I thought it would be better for me in realizing my life goals to just at least give it a shot. Even if it failed, I was like, I'm at least gonna give it a shot because I believe in it. So yeah.
That's awesome. What advice would you have for members of Weekly Group who want to start their own business?
Um, well, definitely make sure that whatever business you're starting, it really truly aligns with your values. Because to be fair and honest, um, when, as you know, any business, at the beginning, specifically when you're trying to get customers and trying to find your fit in the market, it's hard. And sometimes you really test um, your willingness to actually be there. You know, you might be there and then you're like thinking, you know, I could have a really good job, a better paying job than doing this. But knowing that this is more aligned with your values and really driving something that you truly believe in, it's really what's going to be like, I could have another job, but I don't want another job. I want this job to work. And that drive, it's only going to come from doing something that you truly enjoy and like, and that is truly aligned with your values and what you think you should leave behind, maybe as a legacy for your life. So
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And also, I mean, I really do want to elaborate more on like what how you find your own values, because I think that's one thing that if you have to have a set of values, but if you don't actually derive it from yourself, it's just going to come from you're just going to find it in other places, but that can be really dangerous if you're kind of just making other people's values your own.
absolutely. That is a very, very hard exercise. And that's something that you can't really Google. I mean, there's exercises that you can Google to get to it. But at the end of the day, the values and the things that are important to me are going to be different than other people's. You know, because they derive from my background, from the way that I was raised, from from what I thought was, was the reason that I maybe, and you can go into your own psychology as to why, like I have put so much value into equality and freedom, and that it always comes from my own values and from how I was raised and the situations that I lived as I was growing up. But when I sat down to do this, it took me days, and to be honest, I had to really expand and really do a lot of introspection just to like sort of come up with this. But at the end of the day, looking back, I feel that if I would have just said the first thing that came to my head, that would have come to or a version of that comes to my head too, like a specific instance or a specific example of what I think it's wrong with the world that I want to change or that I would want to do better. And that I truly believe in my heart, like, I, I can do this. One of the things that I can tell you is like, when I was going through this exercise, I am an introvert, absolutely, my entire life. But when I believe in something, when I truly comes from my heart, I'm not an introvert. Like there is no public forum that you can put me in that's going to make me feel uncomfortable. If I truly believe I'm making a difference and I truly believe in my heart, it's aligned with what I believe. Like for some odd reason, that's the only time that I can be like very like assertive and very much not of an introvert. And not very many things do that to me. But that was something that helped me discover some of the things that were truly like something that I was willing to just really be out there for. Um, so definitely start thinking about it. I think it's something that even if you just find them, a little bit as you're younger, I think it's easier because you're more true to yourself when you're younger. When you're older, you get a lot of feedback from the world and your work and how things are supposed to be rather than what you see as a, not as a third party or as an outsider, but I think that when you're younger, it's easier for you to see what's wrong than when you're older and you're already accustomed to those things. And you're like, oh, that's just the way the world works. It's better to not have that type of mentality. It's like, it's not the way the world works. It's like, how can I make it better? And, and everybody has their own definition for that. But it's very hard. I'm sorry, you can't Google that. That has to come from your heart.
A lot of people, yeah, they say like, oh, well, life isn't fair. You kind of just suck it up, deal with it. But it's like, well, it can be more fair, and I definitely think that that's something that's really great to think about. Well, even though we're never gonna be in an ideal world, everything's always gonna be suboptimal, it doesn't mean that we can't actually improve on what we're doing.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If there were 3 words to describe yourself, what would they be in your point of view?
Jeez. I'd say driven.
Sorry?
Driven would be one of them.
Driven?
Driven. I attempt to be honest, true to myself more than anything. And third one. And this might sound like a bad thing, but I'm a little stubborn. And it's actually a good thing. I don't think that I could have done everything that I've done if I wasn't a little stubborn. I think, maybe for some people that might be a bad quality, but I think that it's actually a good thing because I'm still open to feedback and everything, but I am stubborn when I think that I want to achieve something. I definitely try and stick to it. And just didn't work the first time, try another way. And I think those are the 3 ways that I would describe myself. Yeah.
So did you choose those 3 things? The first one, driven. Why would you choose that?
Because I honestly believe in my heart that I am very driven. I have gone from my background and from just not even knowing what I'm going to do with economics to like really making and building something from it. And just only because of the fact that I really liked it. And I try and, right now I have a really good job. I think I have a really good job. I enjoy what I do and I learn from it as well. So it's, so just to get to this point, I think a lot of people, it's hard, but I don't think everybody gets to do it. And I think that has to do a little bit with me being driven and a little bit hard-headed. So
if there was one thing that you would want people to take away from this interview, what would it be?
I think for sure, have fun. I mean, this world is always better when, everybody, including, and I can't really think of anything, but I don't even know where I saw this, but it's like anything that you do, if you really enjoy it you're probably going to become really good at it. And no matter what it is that you become really good at it, you're probably going to be able to make a good living from it. So, if you take, leave money behind, do what you like, do what you enjoy, and become good at it just because you enjoy it. Just by you being a happier person, you're probably going to be a better neighbor. You're probably going to be a better sister, um, and a better coworker. And just by doing that, I think it's just something that, if we all sort of stuck through, or kept in mind as we grow older and do whatever it is that we want to do, it would just it's just better. It just makes everything better. So yeah, I don't know. Focus on yourself, focus on being happy and not on the money. So yeah.
Yeah. That's also just one thing. It kind of goes both ways as well. You're gonna like the things that you're good at, and you're probably gonna become good at the things that you like to do.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, some people think that, oh, you're just like born with certain things that you like to do, and or you're born with certain strengths, but I mean, I don't really think that's the case, because you're gonna have like certain natural tendencies towards certain things, but really when it comes to what you're actually going to enjoy and what you're gonna really be good at is just like listening to yourself, and like, yeah, finding what makes you happy, not what makes you a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But
Because you don't want to make a lot of money and then hate what you're doing. Like if you think about you have 24 hours in a day. 8 hours you're probably sleeping, 8 hours you're at work. That's and then that leaves you with 8 hours to be with your family, hobbies. Um, you're really gonna spend a third of your life doing something that you hate just for the money. That's a tough thing to do. I mean, there's no way that you can do something that you hate for 8 hours and then go spend 8 hours with your family and be super happy and chilled, It's like you're probably going to be really stressed, very unhappy, and making them very stressed and very unhappy as well. So yeah, no.
some people think I'll just like give up that 8 hours at work so I can have a better 8 hours with my family, because we can spend a bunch of money and stuff, but it's like, it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's very hard to compartmentalize. Yeah.
Well, still don't pass up a chance if there's a way to make a bunch of money and still
Well, absolutely no.
not hate
If you
it.
if you make a bunch of money and then get to do whatever you want, that's fine. I mean, like I said, making money is not a bad thing. Making money, it's a good thing, and there's always a level of comfort that you have to be in before you can actually be happy. Like if you think about like third world countries where people are just worried about where next meal is going to come from, it's very difficult for them to reach that type of happiness that we can reach, because for them there's immediate needs like eating, a roof over your head, and just having good healthy environment, sanitation. That's a very different type of person, like the things that we're worried about, than us. Like once we have all of those things and we reach a certain level of like I guess financial stability, it's easier to worry about other things. So, I talk about like, oh, money secondary, but there is a minimum amount of money that you need to make to actually be happy. So yeah, don't look at it as making money is okay. Making money is good, but making it your first and only priority, it's probably not good.
Also, I think something that some people don't realize is that you can choose to be happy, and you can choose when you're going to be happy. So, like, some people just think, oh, like someone else controls this, or it's just what happens. But no, you can tell yourself to be happy, and you can control that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you can't control outside of you, but you definitely can control how you react to situations around you,
Mhm.
and tell yourself like, oh well, something happened, I can either be very unhappy the rest of the day, or I can just say like, you know what, things happen, whatever, I'm sure, you know, everybody's going through things internally. So if you're just even a little bit more compassionate with other people, if it's an external situation, just by being more compassionate, you can just, to be honest, happiness comes within you. And if you're more compassionate, like, you know what, maybe they're having a bad day. It's not me, it's them, and move on. But yeah, you definitely have to focus on your own happiness, um, and know that it does come within. Like, hopefully you have hobbies and things that you can do on your own, that you're always making sure that you continue to feed yourself for the things that you enjoy. And then hopefully that actually reflects outside of you.
Yeah. And I think, well, one thing we do want to mention is if people are interested in what you do, how can they come in contact with Tellor and get in contact with you?
Yes, so if you're interested in what I do, definitely come to it's www.tellor.io. That's a website that gives you
We'll
more
also link it
comprehensive,
in the description as well.
some more comprehensive explanation of what we actually do. To me, to be honest, I'm available on LinkedIn, Twitter. My Twitter handle is @justBrendaX. And where else can you find me? Probably my email. My email is pretty public at this point in time. It's B and then my last name, Loya @Tellor.io. And I mean, you can always contact May, and she can put us in contact as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining. I learned a lot, and I'm so glad that we could have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I hope you got something out of it. I can't wait to hear what what you define as your values. Maybe you can get your parents to like look up an exercise that you guys can do and start thinking about those things.
Yeah, well, that is something that we do think about a lot, and I think that's
Mhm.
just like that's one of the things that has really helped us try to find like, well, when we started homeschooling, this is something that we actually want to do, and thinking about just like how we want to help other people. So yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. You have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.